Morning, South City Catholic Academy. So for those of you who are working on the Illuminated initial, I have a picture here. This one is from the Book of Kells. I just wanted to remind you, I'm going to try to bring it up a little bit closer so that you can see some of the details that the artists had incorporated into the artwork. You see it's very detailed and they just have fun with it. If you look at it carefully, you can see that there's some animals in there. There's some human faces. Some of them are anthropomorphic, meaning that they are animals that also have human characteristics. Like some of them might have hands. Some of them might be doing things that a normal, an average animal like a bird or a deer wouldn't be able to do. And then there's also a lot of just decoration. I like how some of the right there, the birds and some of the strap work, that is some of the ribbon work, turns into animals. So I'm going to go to another couple of pictures to show you this, because I want you to be able to have an idea that a lot of illuminated work, because for hundreds and hundreds of years when they made books, they had to all be made by hand. So in this page right here, you can see that the first line for the different lines, the first part of each line is the part that's decorated over here in the border. And then the lines that actually have the text are a lot more simple until you get down to the lower corner. You have a person down there sitting almost on an edge of the text. Okay, here's one that is a lot more simple than the ones from the Book of Kells. But this has the H. I like this because it's very architectural. It's very strong. And you have decorations that are in the middle of the columns of the H. But then you have this bird who's kind of walking across it as if it's a bridge. Kind of like that one. There's another one over here. This is from the Book of Kells, and you'll see that this one is extremely ornate. This is, pardon me, this is like one of the coordinates that tells what's going to be in the forthcoming books. So this is from the Book of Kells, and if I bring this up closer, you can see here, hold on a minute, it has the symbols for at least 3 of the evangelists right up here. There's God the Father, or that might be actually Jesus right there, and there's all the, I love this, there's kind of like lions or dragons here. So they have the symbols for the evangelists, not all 4 of them, but here's St. Matthew, the winged man. And then you have the winged lion, that's the symbol for St. Mark. And over here, which is very interesting, because the symbol for St. Luke is the winged ox, but this one looks more like the symbol for St. John, which is an eagle, but it does have a calf's head. So that's kind of where they combined both the symbols for St. John and St. Luke. And in each one of these down here, in the archway, you have the circles, but they have the different kinds of patterns in each one of these circles, and the borders for them are also changed. I think that a lot of you did beautiful work in your initials, and what I really liked is that so many of you thought of incorporating symbols that represent something about you. So I thought that was great. We're going to go to my example where I'll show you how we're going to do the finishing part of this project. Okay, so I have done an R. My first name is Rudy, and I'll try to bring it up closer so that you can see it. Here we go, I think that's better. So you can see that I made the structure of it where it's a tree. I'll bring it back lower. You can see the structure of it. There's a tree. There's the top part of the R, which is a bird. I made the bird look Irish. And then for the other part of the R, the other leg, I made it into a ladder. I did this because of wisdom, which, like there's all these steps, or I guess you could call it education, so that the thirst or the knowledge for learning, a person ascends that. That is, you climb up it as you get higher. And then I have over here the owl, which also represents knowledge. And I did strap work in this trunk of the tree just to make it kind of look like the bark. But I wanted to add something about my faith. So down here in the bottom part of it, I have an M for Mary, the symbol for Mary, and also the crown, the Queen of Heaven. And over here on the bird, I had the bird. Okay, so here on the eagle, it's not really an eagle, it's more of just kind of like a general bird, but I have the details of the wings in here. And you can see I didn't just do lines, I put it as almost like strap work or ribbon work so that I could have different colors. And in the details here, I had this shape going around the eye, and then it becomes a pattern, almost like a ring around the neck, like you'll see on a lot of birds. And I made the tree up here get skinnier so that I could have the leaves, you know, to demonstrate that it's a tree, but it wouldn't be covering the rest of the bird, so that the readability of the letter as an R comes through. I kept the background extremely simple for now. I could make more details that tell more about my faith or my Irish heritage, but I left it that simple for now just so that we could get moving with the next part of this. So what I wanted to talk to you about is if you have colored pencils, these will work best because you did detail work and you want the patterns that you made and you want the details that you added to be really clear. I want to show you a little bit about how to use colored pencils, because when you're using them you can get them to be really dark or very light. It all depends on how much pressure you use. Okay, this one I have is a brown, so I'm going to use this to just outline my tree for now. I did really this, so you can see that that's really dark. It's really fine. I have my pencil sharpener nearby because I have a feeling I'm going to have to go over it rather often to keep it sharp. But if I have this all in brown, I don't think that I want the tree bark also to be the same color, so I'm going to change that a little bit. I think I want that. Well, I think the inside of this will be a light brown. I'm not going to do that yet. I think that I want to use a different shade. I think I'm going to actually use red for, I'm going to start with the outline of the Mary for the M, and then this strap work or the bark work, I'm going to do this, but I'm going to make sure that I do it really dark. So I'm going to just outline it and then fill it in. I'll show you. Okay, so I have this much done so far. I outlined the strap work first and then I filled it in. And you'll notice that, at least I think you'll notice that, if I have done this part very nicely and I have the outline of my initial done also in color, I don't really necessarily have to fill in the background. I might not need to do the trunk, the part that's not the bark or the strap work. I might not need to color that part in at all. So that might save you some time, but it needs to make sure, you need to make sure that you have enough going on inside the shape so that it won't look too empty and white when you're finished with it. And if I was also thinking while I'm working on this, if you do not have colored pencils, thin line markers will work. If you have delicate work, I am worried that thick line markers will not hold, won't be delicate enough to hold the shapes that you've made, because some of you did some very detailed work, and you want to keep the design that you've made and really show it off instead of overpower it with having lines or color lines that are too thick, like with thick markers. So that's why thin markers or colored pencils will work best on this. Okay, so I've done some more work. I worked on the owl, and I want to bring this a little bit closer to show you that when I did the owl, I actually only outlined it, but these little tiny details in here, I did not outline those because my pencil I did not think was sharp enough, and I just filled in the part right here of the wings and then the little speckles on his stomach. Over here on the tree leaves, I outlined them first, and I used more than one shade of green. So I'm going over here. I'm going to do this part next with the ladder. Now you can see that for this it needed a ruler for the straight lines. But I knew that it would be really difficult to do the greens of the land in between all of those the steps of the ladder. So I did all of that first with a very light pencil so that I'll have the background color And then later on, when I do the ladder itself with the brown, it will stand out really nicely against the lighter colored background. So I have the ladder about halfway finished, and I did the outer part of it with a dark color and with the sharp end of the pencil, and then on the inside part of it I did a lot lighter. I'm sure that a lot of you have already noticed that as I was doing this, I was using linear perspective so that the ladder, as it goes up higher on towards the tree and farther away from us, the viewer, it gets more narrow and it gets smaller, plus the steps get skinnier, and they also are getting closer together. So that's using linear perspective, because you've already learned about that, and I thought that you would recognize that as it's being put into use in an artwork. Okay, as you can see, I've started working on my bird. I've filled in the beak, and I've done the outlines, the purple for the area that goes around the eye, and then the neck ring, and then he has a cap that's going to be red. I haven't filled those in yet, but I just wanted to show you that this is the color scheme I'm starting to use on this. And then I did the outline for the body here, here, and here. So most of the feathers, at least on the top part, are going to be blue. So you can see the colors that I'm using. I would like to see you finish your work, and I'd like you to turn it in. If you have not finished the drawing part yet, and you haven't turned that in yet, please first send me the picture of how your illuminated initial looks just as a drawing, and then please send in the picture after you finish the drawing. The coloring part of it. So I look forward to seeing them, and I'll be talking to you later. Thank you.